Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to another live Xanadu Gallery Art Business Academy online critique group session. Today is Wednesday, February 10th, 2021. Good to be back here with you in another critique session. You'll notice a couple of failures. Last week, I promised you that we would be rotating through your artwork that you had submitted prior to the session, and we had a technical glitch with that slide deck and did not get that going, but it will happen next week. And just a reminder that next week, the third Wednesday of the month, as is typical, will be an Ask Me Anything session. So you can submit questions about what we've been talking about here in these sessions or your work. And I'll be taking as many of your questions as I can next Wednesday at this time. Today, though, we are back to our normal routine in featuring an artist and her work. And it's my pleasure to welcome from Florida, Sandy Johnson. And Sandy, if I've got you here, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to unmute and welcome you to the session. Good morning, Sandy. Oh, looks like we've still got you muted there. Let's try one more time here.
Got it.
There we go. Got you now. Good morning. How are you, Sandy?
I'm good.
Good. We're glad to have you here and to be able to feature and look at your work. And as is typical, I'd like to begin with having you share with us a little bit of your background, how you became interested in art, and kind of how that interest in art has blossomed into the place where you are now.
Sure. I didn't really come from much of an art background. I was a theater major in college that ended up going into education. So I taught at a local university in communications for, I don't know, 10 years or so. And then shifted over, built a financial planning business and worked there for 32 years. So I've been a private wealth manager for a long time. Sold my business a few years ago, and then asked myself, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? So
the natural answer is, I think I'll paint.
Well, actually, I was shopping with two of my sisters one day as I was looking also for a house to buy, and they both live in the same area. And so we'd been talking about what I was looking for, and I had said, well, maybe I would take up painting. I took an art class back in adult education years ago and really liked it, but never really had time to do anything with it. So before I knew it, one of my sisters had dumped the art kit in my cart, and there I started. So that was 3 years ago. So I've been busy.
Yeah, so and we have had situations like this in the past where in these sessions where we've had an artist who we might have looked at their work and said, my goodness, it's clear that decades of technical study and skill have gone into creating this work, and that there's a deep background there, and then we realize, oh no, this is a pretty fresh start. We're getting a launch here, and I think you're going to see in the comments that we're impressed with the work that you're producing, and I think also that kind of this short window that you've been working is going to help us kind of understand the breadth and range of the work that you're producing as well. Talk to us about any efforts you've made up to this point to show the work. Have you had sales of your art?
I have. I joined a painting group here in Vero Beach, and then also one in Minnesota, which is normally what we would do in the summertime. We'd go to Minnesota. And so both organizations have been really supportive and fun, and they do a variety of shows and programs, and I've participated in those. And then I set up a website, and I come from a bit of a business background, so turns out I kind of like to run a business. So as I've been dabbling with all of this, I've been trying to figure out the business side of it as well as the art side. But that's kind of where that's gone. I've probably sold 10 to 15 different pieces. Most of them either have been to former clients, friends, family, people who have happened to see it on my website that I could kind of coax into looking at the website, that kind of thing. So that's kind of my experience. I'm My art is hardly consistent, I think, in terms of style. I've been really exploring lots of different ways to communicate, and I don't think I've settled into anything very clearly yet. But so that's kind of where I'm at.
Well, let's take a look at the work and see if we agree with you there. So let me go ahead and, oh, hold on here, bring that up. Come on now. All right, there we go. And so, Sandy, as we look at these pieces, just talk to us a little bit about your inspiration, what draws you to the subject matter, maybe how the styles have kind of developed, and you know, a little bit maybe of your creative process.
Sure. This one actually was inspired by a piece of granite or stone of some sort. Anyway, I was at some home show and I just adored this piece of cut stone, and took some pictures of it because I love the colors and I like the striations in it. And so I brought the picture back in my brain, and then began to sort of duplicate some of that, and then all of the kind of fissures that came down, which initially I had all in sort of gray because there really were fissures in the stone, became suggestive to me of trees. And so the trees sort of evolved, and then before I knew it, it looked like we were somewhat on a beach. So that was that evolution.
And this is a 30 by 40. Now, how about this piece?
This is actually from our lake home in Minnesota. I was out coming in on a pontoon one evening, and just as the sun was setting, and it was just glinting off the edges of the lily pad, and it just totally delighted me. And so I was really looking at those colors that just kind of highlighted copper that I loved, and so that's what that one's from.
Yeah, and this one is a unique, a kind of unique aspect ratio. It's a 48-24, so a 2-to-1 aspect ratio. What kind of drew you to that very vertical format?
I'm going to say I don't know. I've been experimenting with lots of different canvases. So sometimes a painting becomes what the canvas is that I have available, instead of the more deliberate other way approach. So I don't remember, actually.
Sure. You had a 48-24, and here it is.
Exactly.
Now, what about this piece?
This actually is from the backyard, my backyard in Minnesota. Again, there was a robin that decided to build its nest on the railing, and so I was able to kind of follow it along, and then just kind of was delighted with the look of it all. And so that's capture from that. This is on our dock at the lake, and it was one of those mornings that you wake up and it was a heavy, kind of a smoggy, foggy, misty kind of morning where it was absolute silence. There wasn't a sound, and there was almost no other visual stimulation, just this hint of a sun coming through and starting to break through the light. And so I just loved the quiet of it all. This is, again, I guess, another up north picture. So we live in an area that is actually one of the national forest areas in Minnesota. Yeah, lots of pines of one sort or another. And so this is actually an area that reminds me of a place called Preacher's Grove, which is where the old time preachers used to come and hold their impromptu sessions.
Okay, and then let's take a look at your presentation, and it looks like most of your work is being done on a gallery wrap format, and we'll see back there, and then a couple of different images and the paintings extending around the side. Would you say that, or agree that this is pretty typical of how you're approaching presentation?
Yes, I started out with a narrower canvas and then needed to frame things in order to be able to show them, which became bothersome. And so someplace along the line decided that I'd use the wider format. I've done a few where I've actually painted a solid color along the edge. But by and large, my normal approach is to continue the painting itself and just let the painting wrap the edge.
Excellent. Okay, so now we've talked enough, Sandy. Let's invite other members of the panel in and get some reactions to the work. And I've got a reaction from Jeff. I don't know if I have Jeff here. Jeff, I think I do have you here. Rather than me reading your reaction to the work, could you just pop in and talk to us a little bit about what you were seeing across the work? Let me hop to the work again so we're looking at it.
Yeah, for me, this image and the nest image, Nestworthy, didn't fit with the other images, which I thought had kind of a, first of all, they were more in nature and more representational. And I thought they also they conveyed much more of a feeling and emotion. They were more evocative. And your control of light, I thought, was more interesting, at least for me, visually. And the scenes were more intriguing, and I wanted to spend more time with them.
Yeah, so it feels like, and I think I saw this echoed in a number of comments that we're seeing a range of different work. We've only got 5 samples. Maybe some of you were able to go on Sandy's website as well and look at some of the work there. But among these 5 samples, we definitely do see some diversity in terms of the subject matter and some of the stylistic approach. I'd love to get more reactions on that and just any general impressions that you have about the work. Linda Armstrong, let me see if I can get you in. Good morning, Linda.
Oh, good morning. I'm just astonished at how much you have done in such a short time. I thought you'd been doing this for years and were showing in regional galleries. I mean, you could have galleries in Minnesota and galleries in Florida and show different kinds of work, and it would work. I'm an abstract artist, and I really love the beach bingo one. That is so complex, and the colors are amazing, and I love the composition, and that's the one, so some people like one kind and other people like the other kind, and also I didn't get a chance to go to your website, but I hope that you have on the website written down what you told us, practically word for word, as an introduction and then for each piece, because what you told us about each piece was really interesting for a buyer. These are all beautiful, and no matter which direction you decide to go in, you're going to find people who just love them. And I hope you have time to do more. You asked about in your questions about the wrap, the painting around the edges. That's great. It looks wonderful. And for me, your presentation looks wonderful. The only issue I had at all with your work was that it was kind of all over the place. And, I had the same problem, but it took me a lot longer to get to where to where you are. You have a really good control. Your sense of light and composition is wonderful. And my goodness, just keep going. But while you're at it, see if you can find some regional galleries in both places. And if you need help with art business, Jason is the one. He's great.
That's why we're here, right?
Yes.
Linda, you're echoing again a lot of what I saw in the comments that were submitted ahead. Just a lot of encouragement about the styles, and question marks a little bit about the consistency. And I think let's talk about that. That's kind of the elephant in the room. It's something that we focus in on quite a bit, and I think every once in a while it's good to have a reminder of why I beat that drum so regularly and talk about consistency so much. And it's simply that as you are getting your work out there and starting to develop a collector base, if you're reaching out to galleries and looking for representation, it becomes increasingly important that your work be identifiable, that it have a cohesive voice through that work, that collectors can walk into a gallery in Minnesota or Florida or North Carolina or California where you're showing your work, and can pretty easily see the work on the wall and say, oh, that's Sandy's work. I recognize it. The more that you can evoke that kind of response, the more likely you are to develop a collector base for that work. From a gallery perspective, as a gallery owner, as I'm contemplating whether I'm going to take on a new artist, I have to really weigh in the balance. First, do I envision myself being able to effectively market and sell? Will the work look good in the gallery? But I also have to think I'm going to be investing quite a bit of time and energy and financial resources into showing and promoting and marketing the artist's work. And as I make that investment, am I going to, as we begin selling the work, am I going to be able to get more of that work to be able to build on those marketing efforts? And is that work, the new work that I'm getting, going to be consistent? And so anytime I see a wide range of different pieces like we're seeing here, it's going to give me pause. If as a gallery owner, I looked at this piece, the Beech Tree Bingo, and I said, I love this. I could sell this. I know my collectors would be interested in this. Well, it doesn't do me any good to only be able to sell the work once. I've got to be able to have a range of work by the artist that I can kind of continue to build upon. And so I'd want to have more work, not the same painting, obviously, over and over, but work that's in that same vein. That allows me to kind of build on a brand around the artist and their work. Or for another gallery, it might have been the pieces that are more representational and more realism, and it's the Beech Tree Bingo that gives them pause to say,
Sure.
I'm just not sure. Now, having said all of that, well, while we're doing it, and this is going to look very familiar to those of you who are in the Art Business Academy, I like to run it's my version of scientific analysis on consistency. And this is a little bit hard to do because it is so subjective in a lot of ways. But these are the areas that I consciously try to look at when I'm analyzing an artist's consistency. And I've come up with this system that allows me to score an artist's work for consistency. And I look across subject matter, style, theme, palette, medium, presentation. And basically what I'm doing is, if I were to look at a sampling of the artist's work, and usually I like to look at 10 pieces, I just kind of will take the score for each variety I see in subject matter. That'll kind of drop that score down for the different elements of style. And then this just kind of gives me a framework to think about the artist's consistency, and an area where I can make suggestions where they might focus to improve the consistency. So as I look at your work, Sandy, this is the score I just quickly came up with. And again, it's not very scientific because I was only really looking at 5 of your pieces. It seems to me that the areas that you could focus on to create even more consistency would be in a little bit tighter subject matter, a range of subject matter, and style. I'm just kind of deciding which direction you want to go in. Now, typically, when I do this, if I see a score above 7, I feel like the artist is well on track to be ready to start putting their work in front of galleries. I like to see about an 8.5 before you actually do start to present your portfolio to galleries. And so I think you're headed in that direction. I think you just have some decisions to make about, okay, which direction is it that I'm going to be pursuing more consistently? Now,
Jason,
again, we
can I
have to
ask a
temper this.
question there?
Oh, go ahead, Sandy.
Yeah, so, one of the reasons that I did include a variety is because I'm still trying to figure out which direction to go.
Exactly.
My fallback, and probably if you looked at the website, I'm going to say 70% or more have a more representational style.
Yeah.
And that's my fallback. So if I don't know what to do, I can do that kind of a
Yeah.
bit.
And that's, I was going to say,
better at doing that or better at pushing the other way and finding a little bit more abstracted view of representational. And that's the right way to say it, but
yeah. No,
yeah.
And you have just asked the $1 million question, and it's the question that I think every artist has to struggle with a little bit is, and I have to say that everything we're talking about in consistency has to be tempered right now by the fact that you are very early in your career, your artistic career and process, and it is very natural for you to want to be doing some exploration and experimentation, and to see what where your interest is going to lie. And of course, one of the big questions that an artist is likely to ask herself or himself, at this stage of the career is, okay, I can do these different things. Which one is going to be more marketable? And this might even be more of a question for you, Sandy, because you do have a business background, and you can understand market dynamics and demand and those kinds of things.
I think the other thing, that's one of it, is demand, but the other is also in what area am I better?
Yes.
Where do I stand out as an artist? Where do I have more potential to develop artistically?
Well, and I would even add one more dimension to that by saying, not only where are you better and where's the potential, but I would also ask, where's your interest and passion? Where does that lie? Because again, as we think about your future art career, you're going to have the opportunity to be creating hundreds of works of art, and we would hope that you're
turns out I've already done hundreds of works of art,
hundreds more, thousands,
ridiculously productive.
Yeah, which is great. And it's miles on the paintbrush that really help move the ball forward. But we've got to be thinking about, okay, over the coming years, where are you going to be wanting to spend your time? What's going to be of interest to you? How can you keep that passion alive? I have found that I am most effective at selling the artwork of an artist who just loves what they're doing. That the more excited and more engaged they are in their own work, the more effective I'm going to be at showing and selling that work. It's just a very, I would almost think of it as a very emotional connection that my visitors to the gallery are going to make with a piece of artwork. They're engaging in a very primal level with this work. And that you as an artist are going to be most effective in creating that kind of connection when you're doing work that you're excited and passionate about. And so, which is the long way of saying it would be impossible for us sitting here today to look at your artwork or even a broader sample of your artwork and say, ooh, Sandy, this is the most marketable work. This is going to find the widest audience. Because we just live in such a diverse art market that I'm convinced that whatever you're passionate about, we can find a collector base that's going to be equally passionate about it. And so that also is to say that you've got some, I would encourage you at this point to continue experimenting and building out a couple of different bodies of work in different styles and see what's most engaging to you, what feels most natural and interesting and feels like you could pursue. And it's not to say that you can't have some range within those bodies of work, but you just kind of want to be working toward finding your artistic signature, so to speak, that you really feel like you could create a lot of that work going forward. Let's shift gears just a little bit, though, and talk about pricing. This is one of our favorite subjects to talk about. Lori Reed, you had a comment, and again, I've got it here, but rather than me reading it, why don't I have you hop in and comment just your instant reaction to the pricing that we saw on the work?
My instant reaction was to get the calculator out and do the square inch and thought, ooh, that all seems a little low for a gallery. That the sizes you're at, it was coming out at $1 or $1.50 per square inch. And I know Jason would say that needs to be higher.
Yeah, I did the same thing, Lori. Really pretty easy. For example, I think this piece is one of the easiest when I look at that 1200 and I see 40 by 30 and I say that's $1 a square inch. So Sandy, talk to us. How have you come up with values for the work to this point?
As I mentioned earlier, my kind of community that I associate with are a couple of art clubs. And so nearly everyone in that art club is a relative amateur. You know, there are different stages, but for the most part. So if we do a show, my artwork is actually slightly high relative to the other pieces that are there. So it's kind of the people that I'm associated with. I haven't yet gotten into any or even explored going into any galleries yet. So I'm sure that if I did that, then of course those prices would need to be significantly higher. But I felt like in those early stages, as I was finding my way, that the prices needed to sort of reflect the people that I hung around with.
Yeah.
And as well as the people that are seeing my website, which are for the most part friends and family. And, you know, initially I set up the website just as a way to kind of share things that I've been doing with my former clients or friends or family members who would say, so tell me about your painting. How are you doing?
Yeah.
And so that was kind of my initial thought. You know, I still haven't expanded the base of people on the website enough so that, you know, there are more people that probably follow me on Pinterest, or not Pinterest, but on Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I think this is a perfect example. And what you're saying, Sandy, makes a lot of sense. And I have talked about this in previous sessions that, you know, by setting our price, well, pricing can be both reactive or proactive. And it's not a mistake to be reactive in the sense that, you know, as you're beginning and exploring and showing your work and you have some opportunities in art clubs or guilds or local shows, it's not a mistake to be reactive to that, to look at how other artists in those venues are pricing their work. And kind of figure out a price that will make sense in that context. But you want to be careful about how long you keep yourself in that kind of mode. What you'll find is that in those kinds of venues, there's just, let's just be frank, there's a limited amount of space to grow. You've got a buyer base that is going to be somewhat limited, and you're going to be showing amongst other artists who just maybe aren't of the same caliber of work that you're producing, and so you just run into some hard limits in that kind of venue, and that's when it's time to start contemplating shifting gears and you know, becoming more proactive in saying, I want to show in other venues, in venues where I can get a wider base, a wider audience, where I can reach a collector base that would value my work at a higher level. And as Lori was mentioning, if that's in galleries, then we start needing to think, okay, how are the artists in the galleries that I would be interested in showing, and how are they pricing their work? Now, Sandy, in your case, I think we have one of the starkest examples that we've maybe had in this critique group where if I were to just come into your artwork completely blind, not knowing anything about your background, not knowing how long you've been creating, just encountering the work for the first time and judging it as objectively as I could, I think this is one of the starkest examples of undervaluing the work that we've yet seen. I feel like, if I were to encounter it in a gallery, I would easily expect a piece like this to be more in the $3,600 to $4,000 range. And even at that price point, I might feel like it's a good value. And just in terms of the quality of the work and your artistic eye, I think you've got a lot of room to move upward, easily to go into the $2 to $2.50, $2.75 per square inch range and still be a strong value in the marketplace, especially in galleries that you would have easy access to in a Minnesota and a Florida. You would find a lot of artwork in that price range. And you would see a lot of volume of sales in those price ranges. And so I would encourage you to start kind of thinking that direction. What can I be doing to start to get my artwork out to venues that could get those higher prices? Now, you still have some work to do in terms of building a cohesive, tight portfolio of consistent work, deciding which pieces fit into that portfolio, which don't, but then having that price point in line is really going to make a big difference as well. I just don't think people would look at your work and say, this is an artist who should be in shows amongst amateurs. I think that we're well beyond that. I would love to get some other comments and reactions to those of you in the group about the pricing, about where Sandy should maybe be focusing her efforts. Gay, let me go to you.
Okay, just briefly, I did think the pricing was terribly low, quite frankly. So I'm with you on that, Jason. I just think they're worth much more. But my question is, and don't feel you have to do this. When I see the solitude and that beautiful evocative evening of the water lilies, you have an ability to paint mysterious, ethereal light. That is, I think that's a gift, quite frankly. And I would like to encourage you as an experiment to bring your two worlds together, to sort of create those incredible natural scenes, but do something with the light that I seem to think, from what you said, you find instinctively wonderful. And so I was thinking, I don't know what light you're going to use in anything, but I was thinking of more fusing something as an experiment and as a challenge to yourself.
In other words, more abstracted work, but bringing that element.
No, evocative. So you take your natural scenes and perhaps you translate the light that's in the illuminate onto the eggs. I don't know. I'm not going to go there because it's up to you what you do. But I feel that there's a way here for these worlds to come together. And I'm just, for myself, visually focusing on your excellent use of light.
Thank you, and I'm hoping that I can pull them together as well. So
just have fun. Just have fun.
Yeah, but definitely we've seen that echoed, that that light and that evocative sense that you're capturing there. That's definitely a strength, and to understand your strengths and to be able to build on those strengths would be very powerful. And again, kind of if I'm thinking about collectors encountering your work, boy, it would sure be powerful if you could overhear collectors saying, boy, I just love Sandy's work. She has such an amazing ability to capture light and atmosphere. And if you could hear that, if you hear those comments over and over again, that's a really good sign that that's a direction that you should be really focusing your efforts. It's what's capturing people's imagination and their attention with your work. Other comments? Anyone else want to hop in with comments? Ellen. Do I have you? Gotcha, Ellen. Good morning.
Yeah, I agree with some of the other comments. Your use of light is just astonishing. I have a background as a professional photographer, and I'm amazed at your understanding of light. I did go to your website, and that quality to me carries through all of your work. You have some portraits, you have some still life, and that quality of light is there, I think, across all of your work. I do like the illuminate, and then the one with the canoe. Those two are amazing. And I think that, focusing on that capturing of the light, and figure out which of those areas that you have in all your variety that you enjoy doing the most, and maybe do collections of, do series of different ones. I have the same challenge because I like to do a lot of different things. But if you could create, just pick one of those things and create a body of work for that. And then when you do that, if you want to move on to something else, create a body of work for another thing, and you can submit those to different galleries. But your use of light is magnificent.
Point, Ellen. And I can think of at least one other pretty well-known artist who might have done some lily pads with some real repetition and been pretty successful with it. And I love this idea of, really, again, if you think about how I showed you, I analyze consistency. Well, if you could isolate one variable there and say, I am going to take my subject and I'm going to do repeated paintings on this subject. For example, lily pads on water. And I'm going to do a dozen paintings, and obviously you're going to get different lights and different experiences. But by creating a series like that, and like I say, isolating that one element of subject matter and repeating it, you really do have an opportunity there to then start building bodies of work that can be very powerful for marketing and showing in galleries and building a branding around your work. Let's go, Terry. I think I've got you. I'll get you in.
Yeah, I kept putting my hand down because I think this might be a question that's a little bit personal. But when we were listening to you,
we're all friends here, Terry.
I know.
Go ahead, Terry.
Well, that's me. I'll dig. When we were listening to you speak, I felt a different tone of voice when you were speaking about some of the pieces, a more intimate tone. And to me, that's maybe look at your paintings about which ones you have done just to say, I can do this, and I like this place, and this is lovely, and which ones really let you speak from the heart about them, because I think that's where you'll find your core of work. And maybe you need to do the others to get there. But I heard a different tone with Solitude and with the lily pads, and I've forgotten the name of it already, and with Nestworthy. And I feel like what you're bringing to us is an intimate knowledge of where you've lived and that love. So the others are fun to do and great, and don't stop doing them. But I think kind of focus on which ones bring you that inner feeling that you were kind of relaying to us when you were describing them.
Thank you. Yeah, it was interesting. I've been struggling actually with a large painting that I'm working on right now that is based on actually a photograph that my daughter took at Yosemite. And it's a gorgeous photograph, but I've never been to Yosemite. I'm not a mountain person because where I live, we don't have a lot of mountains. Anyway, so I don't have any innate sensibility to those things. So I cannot make that painting look good. It's a sad thing. It might have to get repainted, painted over. And that might have to do with the fact that it's just not coming from my background. It's a beautiful photo, but
and those are things you can only know by trying.
Yeah.
You know, what is going to resonate and what's going to really capture your imagination and your spirit. And you know, I love to read, and so I'm always reading about authors. And there's this constant mantra of write what you know. And I think that that can also very easily be applied to the visual arts. That, as you just mentioned, as you know it and you've experienced it, it's that sharing of that experience that really creates that that connection. I think I've got time for one more comment, Linda. I think I had you maybe. Let's see if I can get Linda in. Oh, there we go, Linda. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm unmuted.
You are.
So when I look at these, they bring back memories. To me, it's like a memory series, and it's wonderful. The emotions that they bring, you can see that they're very, very special to you, and I think that they would be special to your potential clients as well. And that was the point that I wanted to make, is to a lot of people, these bring a special, oh, I've been there. Oh, I feel that. And that's something that's hard to capture. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, and I would echo that. And Linda, I think that, again, from what I've seen in the comments and just my own personal experience looking at your work, you've got a bright and exciting future ahead of you in the visual arts. I just don't see any reason why you couldn't create a body of work and very quickly be out presenting it to galleries for representation and be building a following for that work. You know, when you strike on something like this, I would just encourage you to push forward, and kind of with that end goal in mind of, I want it to be out there and I want people to be able to experience it and share in the work. And of course, there's a lot to learn along the way, and you know, I'm sure that you run into some bumps along the way as well. But it's having that vision in mind, and you know, your work is too good to not have people be able to have that experience of seeing it and experiencing it. So we would encourage you to push forward with that. Sandy, thanks so much for letting us.
Everybody, and thank you for the kind comments and helpful insights.
Yes, oh, it's a pleasure, and we'll all look forward to following you. You know, my hope is we're almost into a year of the online critique group. We started this just after the pandemic kind of kicked in gear, and we were all stuck at home a little bit more. My hope is that as this series goes on, we're going to have some opportunities to go back and revisit some of you that have been featured, and kind of see what's happened with the work and what's going on with your careers. And so I'm looking forward with that. And Sandy, we'll definitely look forward to having you back here and kind of seeing how your work has progressed and developed.
Well, thank you. I did just sign up for your group yesterday as well. So I am looking forward to meeting people even in more detail. Thank you.
Awesome. Good, Sandy. That's going to be exciting. Yes, I will mention, I'd be remiss if I didn't, you know, the Art Business Academy is a great opportunity for us to kind of kick into gear and get more serious about that, and work together to get your work into galleries. So there are a number of you here who are in the Academy, and you know, anyone else who wants to join us is welcome to. So thanks for joining us, everyone. Great to be here with you in a Wednesday session. We'll be back next Wednesday with an Ask Me Anything session. So keep an eye out for the email on that. And you can submit questions on the broadcast page on the form, or just email me with those questions, and we'll have a great conversation next week. Thanks again, Sandy. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Very
we'll
much.
see you
Goodbye,
next
all.
Wednesday.
Appreciate it.
Take care, everyone.